she gave shelter to a battered cowboy in her barn. The next morning, he signed over 2,000 acres of land in her name. The wind swept across the open Wyoming plains, pulling icy rain behind it like cold fingers scraping the ground. Inside a small farmhouse resting at the edge of the Carpenter Ranch, Emma pulled her flannel shirt tighter and glanced at the clock again. Thunder rolled faintly in the distance, and Dusty, the old ranch dog, started barking in alarm. Emma stiffened. "Dusty doesn't bark like that unless something's wrong," she whispered, grabbing the shotgun leaning against the back door. She shrugged into her coat and stepped into the storm, boots splashing through puddles as she swung a flashlight into the dark. The barn stood tall, outlined by lightning flashes and the sound of rain clattering on its roof. Dusty growled low as they neared, his ears perked, his nose aimed at the corral. Emma focused the flashlight in that direction. That's when she saw him, or what was left of him. A man slumped against the side of the barn, drenched, his clothes ripped and filthy, his jeans soaked with mud, and one leg lying in an unnatural angle. He slowly raised a trembling hand. "Please, don't shoot," he rasped, voice raw and broken. "Just needed shelter from rain." Emma kept her shotgun steady, her heartbeat thudding in her ears. "Who are you, and what are you doing here?" she demanded. The man shifted, grimacing in pain as he tried to sit up straighter. Blood dripped from a torn patch beneath his knee. His cowboy hat was soaked, shadowing most of his face, but she could make out a chiseled jaw and a few days' worth of scruff. His eyes, though red, were strikingly sincere. "Name's Caleb," he said. "I've got nowhere else to go. Just need a place to rest for the night. I'll be gone come morning." Emma hesitated. Every instinct screamed to call the sheriff, but something in his eyes made her pause. She looked toward the house where her father was probably dozing with a rifle nearby. She made a choice she knew would be questioned. "You get one night in the barn," she said sharply. "Try anything stupid, and I'll leave a hole in you big enough to echo in Colorado." Caleb gave the barest hint of a smile through his exhaustion. "Understood, ma'am." She pointed toward the barn door. "Hay's in the back stall. Blankets in the tack room. Rest up, then be gone." He limped inside. She followed him in with the flashlight, watching closely. Caleb collapsed into the hay, breathing hard. Emma turned to leave, but his voice stopped her. "Thank you. I mean that." She paused. "Don't make me regret it." Back inside, she set the shotgun back in its place and peeled off her jacket. As she did, she heard a floorboard creak. Walter Carpenter stood at the hallway's edge, arms folded and eyes sharp. "You gonna tell me who's in the barn, or should I grab my rifle and find out myself?" Emma's stomach clenched. Of course he was awake. "Some guy," she admitted. "Looks like he's been through hell. Just needed a dry spot." Walter scowled. "You don't know this man. Could be one of those drifters rustling cattle." "Could be," she said. "But something told me he's not. He's damaged," she added. "I saw it." Walter exhaled through his nose. "You've got a soft heart. It'll get you in trouble." "Maybe," Emma said, "but not tonight." He gave her a long look before walking away, without a word. Emma returned to her room and changed into dry clothes. She lay down, but sleep stayed away. The storm began to ease. Out in the barn, a stranger with wounds and secrets slept near her horses. And for reasons she couldn't quite name, Emma felt the winds of her life shift course. She knew, somehow, that this man wasn't just passing through. As dawn broke, brushing the fields with lavender light, Emma stood on the porch with black coffee in hand, staring at the barn. It looked peaceful, untouched. The screen door creaked behind her. Walter stepped out, binoculars hanging from his neck, his face a mask of suspicion. "Let's see what kind of trouble you dragged home," he muttered, brushing past her. Emma followed him to the barn. Inside, the smell of hay and wet earth greeted them. They heard movement. Caleb was awake, shirtless, a fresh bandage wrapped around his leg, torn from his own flannel. He was brushing Dusty, their usually shy quarter horse. The animal stood quietly, nuzzling Caleb like an old companion. Walter stopped. "Well, I'll be damned." Caleb looked up. "Morning. Hope I didn't overstep." She seemed sore, figured she'd strained something. Just wanted to help. Walter stepped closer. You a vet?" "No, sir," Caleb said, "but I grew up with horses." Walter didn't reply, just examined the careful bandage on the horse, and Caleb's wound. Something didn't add up for a man claiming to be just a drifter. "He's not hurting anyone, Dad," Emma said. Walter gave her a sharp glance but stayed silent. Caleb leaned against the stall. "I'll be gone soon. Just need a day or two to heal. That offer still good?" Emma nodded. "Yes, and if you want to earn your stay, the north fence needs mending." Walter raised an eyebrow. "You trust him with tools?" Caleb looked him in the eye. "You think I came here to steal a hammer and some wire?" Walter stared, then turned and walked out. Emma lingered. "You always as good with horses?" Caleb's voice softened. "Sometimes I think they understand me better than people do." She looked at him, really looked. Even wounded, he had a quiet resilience. She nodded and turned to fetch breakfast. By midday, Caleb was outside, working slowly but steadily on the fence line. Emma watched on the porch, arms folded, thoughts racing. Later, she brought him lemonade. "Figured you could use this." He gave a faint smile. "Thank you, ma'am." "You don't have to call me that." "What should I call you?" "Emma." He repeated it quietly, like it mattered. He sipped the drink, eyes scanning the horizon. "You got family somewhere?" she asked gently. He paused. "Had an uncle. Long gone. Parents too. Brother, well, it's complicated." "Texas." He nodded. "Used to have land. Big place. But land's nothing if the people around you can't be trusted." His tone darkened. She let the silence linger. "Was it your brother who did this to you?" she asked. Caleb looked away, jaw tight. "Let's just say he's doing fine off things that weren't his." Emma swallowed. "You're not just some drifter, are you?" He met her gaze. "No, I'm not." She slowly nodded. "The horse you wrapped this morning, she used to belong to my mother. She passed away 3 years ago. No one's been able to get near that mare since." "But she let you?" Caleb didn't answer. His gaze softened instead. At that moment, Dusty trotted over with something in his mouth, a folded piece of wax canvas. Emma crouched down and took it gently. Inside was a worn, crease map. Some of the lines were clearly drawn by hand. Others were official property boundaries. One section caught her attention. Rollins land, 2,083 acres. The ink nearly faded away. Her eyes snapped at Caleb. "Your name's Caleb Rollins?" The look on his face was like she'd opened an old wound. "Yes," he said quietly. Emma held his gaze. "If you're running from something, you picked the wrong place. This land, this life, it doesn't welcome ghosts." Caleb looked down at the map in her hands. "Maybe," he murmured. "Or maybe it's where ghosts come to remember why they lived." The days eased into a rhythm. The sound of cicadas filled the warm air, leather saddles creaked, and the horses exhaled gentle breaths. Caleb didn't leave. Walter didn't like it, but he didn't stop it either. Emma noticed how her father checked on Caleb's work more often, always watching but never saying much. Caleb started each day early, working despite the pain, never once complaining. Emma observed how he tested boards with skilled fingers, how he spoke softly to nervous horses like he knew them. He listened more than he spoke. One afternoon, dark clouds drifted in over the ridge. The wind carried the scent of rain and pine. Bandit, a young colt, had broken free and was in a frenzy. "He's never like this," Emma muttered, trying to grip the rope. Then Caleb appeared, calm and steady. "Let me try," he said, his voice low and even. She stepped aside. Caleb approached the colt slowly, whispering. He laid a hand along the colt's quivering flank. Bit by bit, the animal calmed. "You speak to them like they're people," Emma said softly. "They are," Caleb replied. "They remember hurt. They learn to trust, but it takes time, just like us." He handed her the rope. Their fingers brushed, brief but charged. Neither of them pulled away. That evening, a power line went down in the wind. Emma lit candles in the kitchen, their glow softening the shadows. She found an old radio and managed to coax it to life. A slow country waltz filled the room, her mother's favorite. She sat, thoughts drifting to the barn. Then came a gentle knock at the door. Caleb stood there, hat in hand, clothes clean, eyes uncertain. "Lights were out," he said. "I found the radio," she told him. "Still plays." He smiled faintly. "We used to listen to the Opry. My mom loved the Carter family." "Want to come in?" He hesitated, then stepped inside. They sat, the candlelight flickering between them, music playing softly. Caleb glanced around. This place, it feels like something out of memory, like it shouldn't exist, but somehow it does. "That's the nicest thing anyone said about it," Emma replied. "It's the truth," he said with a small smile. A comfortable silence followed. Then Emma stood. "Would you dance?" He blinked. "With you?" "No, with the dog," she teased. He smiled and rose carefully. "If I step on your foot, blame the limp." In the living room, surrounded by old photos and fading shadows, she took his hand. He rested his palm lightly on her back, and they began to sway. "You're full of secrets, Caleb Rawlins," she whispered. "So are you, Emma Carpenter?" She looked up at him. "I haven't danced in years." "Me neither." For the length of one slow song, there were no wounds, no walls, no past. Just two people moving together in a house that smelled like coffee and ashwood, where hope flickered to life again. When the music ended, Caleb released her hand, nodded once, and stepped into the night. Emma stood still, her hand warm, her heart whispering that this, whatever this was, wasn't an ending. It was something beginning. The next morning, sunlight broke through soft clouds, casting golden rays across the Carpenter land. Emma was in the barn when Dusty's bark pierced the calm, short and sharp. She stepped outside, wiping her hands on her jeans, and spotted a black SUV kicking up dust down the gravel drive. Walter was already at the front porch, shotgun visible but not raised. 3 men stepped out. One wore a crisp shirt, too clean for a ranch. His boots were polished and his smile too practiced. He slid off his sunglasses and scanned the land like it was already his. Emma joined Walter as the man approached. "Morning," the man said with syrupy ease. "Beautiful place. I'm looking for someone. Name's Caleb Rawlins. Heard he came through this area recently." Walter's eyes narrowed. "What for?" The man gave a politician smile. "Family matters. Business disagreements. Legal mix-ups. Just here to wrap up a few things." Emma's stomach clenched. She glanced toward the barn. "What's your name?" Walter asked, his grip tightening on the shotgun. "Mason. Mason Rawlins." Emma's blood ran cold. Mason turned to her. "You must be Emma. Heard you've been good to my cousin. Real generous. But Caleb isn't who you think he is. He's been running from more than just family squabbles. There are people back in Texas who want answers. I'm just trying to bring him back, calmly." Walter took a slow step forward. "And what kind of calm man shows up with 2 goons at a woman's ranch?" Mason chuckled. "Let's not turn this into a thing. I'm offering a peaceful solution. But if he's here, that's aiding and abetting. I don't want to call the sheriff. Just giving y'all a chance to do the right thing." Emma stepped forward. "He's not here." "That right?" Mason tilted his head. "Even if he were," Walter interrupted, "you've got no claim. Not here." Mason's smile faltered, irritation flickering in his eyes. "Well, we'll stick around a few days. Give you time to think. And just a tip, you might want to keep a close eye on your animals. A lot of bad things can happen out here." Emma's jaw clenched. "Is that a threat?" "Just friendly advice," Mason said, without another word. He and his men got back into the SUV. The gravel crunched beneath their tires like old bones. That night, Walter sat on the porch, methodically cleaning his rifle. Emma stood beside him, arms crossed, her eyes locked on the darkness beyond the fields. "Do you think he'll come back?" she asked. Walter didn't raise his head. "He already has. That was just a warning. Next time, it'll be something worse." "I lied to him," she admitted quietly. "Caleb's in the bunkhouse. He stayed close in case we needed help." Walter gave a slow nod and lowered his rifle. "I figured as much." "Do you trust him?" he asked. Emma hesitated, then answered, "Yes, I do." Walter let out a long breath. Then I pray you're right, because if you're wrong, he's bringing trouble straight to our door. That night, Emma went to bunkhouse. Caleb was seated on the edge of the cot, shirtless, his injured leg wrapped, eyes fixed on something in his hands. A photograph. He slipped it into his pack when she entered. "They found us," she said. "I expected they would," Caleb replied. She sat beside him. "Why didn't you tell me your cousin was after you?" "Because he's always wanted what was never his to take," Caleb said, voice low. "You mean the land?" Emma asked. He nodded. "My grandfather left it to me. Mason tried to take it in court. When that failed, he went after my reputation. Tried to paint me as unstable, dangerous. He even tried to get the courts to declare me unfit." Her breath caught. "Can he do that?" "No. But if I'm alone, he can make people believe it." She reached for his hand. "You're not alone." He looked at her, really saw her. Something in him cracked. "If staying here puts you at risk, I'll go," he whispered. "You're not going anywhere," she said. "Not until we know what we're facing." Outside, wind stirred through the trees. In the distance, a coyote cried. The storm had begun. It was close to midnight when a gunshot shattered the quiet. Emma jolted upright in bed, heart racing. Crack. Dusty barked once, then fell silent. Another shot rang out, closer. Then came shouting, men struggling. She grabbed a shotgun from beside her door and raced out barefoot. The bunkhouse door stood open. Inside, the lamp was knocked over. Caleb lay on the floor, blood on his temple. 3 men towered over him. 2 of Mason's thugs and a third stranger with a boot pressed to Caleb's chest. "You should have stayed gone, Rawlins," the stranger snarled. "This land's worth more than your pride." Emma raised her shotgun, but before she could fire, another blast echoed from behind the barn, louder, deeper. One of the men screamed and dropped, clutching his shoulder. "What the hell?" Walter Carpenter stepped from the shadows, rifle steady. "You've got 3 seconds to leave my land," he said coldly, "or the next bullet hits a lung." The remaining 2 hesitated, then ran, dragging the wounded man with them. Emma dropped beside Caleb. "Are you?" "I'm all right," he gasped. "Hard head, remember?" Walter entered slowly, rifle still in hand. He knelt beside Caleb and pulled a bandana from his pocket. "Hold still," he said, dabbing gently at the wound. Emma stared at her father, shocked. Walter glanced up, then turned back to Caleb. "I knew Mason was a snake, but hiring muscle to beat you on my land? That's a line." Caleb chuckled weakly. "You came back for me." "Don't get emotional," Walter muttered. "You were 10 seconds from being horse feed." He stood, joints cracking. "You should have told me who you were. I didn't think you'd believe me." "I wouldn't have," Walter admitted. "But I saw how you handled the horses, how you fixed that fence. Like it mattered. And the way my daughter looks at you—" "Dad," Emma started. Walter raised a hand. "I'm not blind, Emma, and I don't shoot a man for having ghosts." He turned to Caleb. "That land Mason wants, it's really yours?" "It is," Caleb said. 2,000 acres. My grandfather's. I have the deed. Just nowhere to stand and defend it from." Walter scratched his chin. "Maybe now you do." Later, the 3 of them sat at the kitchen table. Caleb's head was bandaged again. Emma poured coffee, her hand still trembling slightly. The house was silent, windows locked, doors barred. Walter leaned back, studying Caleb, not with suspicion now, but appraisal. "I've got an old buddy in Cheyenne," he said. "Retired attorney. Used to handle land cases when folks fought over fence posts and cattle trails. If you got the papers, he'll make sure they hold." Caleb looked up. "You do that?" Walter sipped his coffee. "I'd do it for the man who bled in my bunkhouse and didn't shoot first. That takes either courage or foolishness. Either way, I can work with it." Emma met Caleb's eyes over a mug. Something between them had changed. Something solid. Walter stood. "But if you 2 are going to keep flirting like kids at a county fair, take it outside the damn kitchen." Then he left. Caleb glanced at Emma, one eyebrow raised in amusement. Emma smiled, heartwarming. That was his way of saying he trusts you. Caleb let out a breath, slow and sure. And for the first time, he didn't look like a man on the run. The next morning was hushed, as if the storm had scrubbed the world clean. Sunlight filtered through thinning fog. Emma stood near the barn, arms crossed, watching Caleb saddle a gentle horse. "You should be resting," she said. Caleb tugged on the strap, checking the leather. "I've got to go into town. Your dad's lawyer friend agreed to meet." Emma nodded, biting her lip. "You sure about this?" "I'm not just sure," he said. "I'm ready." The drive to Cheyenne took 2 hours, but passed quietly. Walter drove. Caleb sat in the front. Emma rode in the back, holding a folder with the original deed. Faded, watermarked, but legible. Caleb D. Rollins, it read. The law office was nestled between a bakery and hardware store. An older man with a cane and silver hair waited just inside. "Walter," he said, shaking his friend's hand. "Finally bring me something interesting?" Walter gestured to Caleb. "This is the last honest Rollins. He's at 2,000 acres, and a reason not to let it go to waste." Caleb stepped forward, determined. "I'm not here to fight Mason. I just want that land to be more than a battlefield." The lawyer narrowed his eyes. "So, you want to sign it over to her?" he asked, turning to Emma. She looked startled, unsure. "Me," she said. Caleb nodded. "You took me in when I had nothing, bleeding and broken. You offered me a place when you didn't have to. You saw a man, not a burden." Emma took a small step back, overwhelmed. "Caleb, I can't accept that. That land, it's your heritage." He smiled gently. "No, it was my cross to bear. But for you, it could be something new. A beginning." Walter stayed silent until he cleared his throat. "You two are hard-headed, but not fools. If he's choosing to give it and you're ready to build something from it, then let's make it official." The lawyer nodded, pulling out a fresh set of documents. "We'll draft the transfer with terms. You're not just receiving land. You're accepting a responsibility." "I understand," Caleb said. "That's why I'm doing it." An hour later, the sun was climbing. Out behind the law office, Emma stared down at the deed. Her name was now printed across it. "I don't even know what to say," she whispered. "You don't need to," Caleb said softly. "Just make it count." She stepped closer, searching his expression. "You really don't want to go back?" "There's nothing for me to go back to," he replied. "But if you're asking whether I want to stay..." Her breath caught. "I do," he finished. She paused, then reached out and took his hand. "Then stay." That night, back at the ranch, Walter poured 3 glasses of whiskey, a rare indulgence. One for himself, one for Emma, one for Caleb. "To new beginnings," Walter said. "To peace," Caleb added. Emma lifted her glass. "To building something that lasts." They toasted. Later, under a sky thick with stars, Emma and Caleb sat together on the porch, the silence wrapping around them like a blanket. "You know," Caleb murmured, "you could have turned me away." Emma smiled, eyes forward. "And you could have run." "But we didn't." He looked at her. "Why?" She leaned her head gently against his shoulder. "Because for once something just felt right. And under that vast sky, no more words were spoken. None were needed." 3 days later, Mason Rollins returned. He pulled up in a shiny new truck, a smirk on his face and legal documents in hand. Emma spotted him through the kitchen window. She stepped outside. Walter followed, his jaw already clenched. Mason stepped down, voice laced with sarcasm. "Well, look at this. I hear you've been playing real estate mogul. Cousin, giving away land like party favors." Caleb emerged from a barn. His limp was gone. His steps were confident. "It's not a game, Mason. It's done. The land's not mine anymore." Mason raised his eyebrows. "You're right. It's not, because I've got a court order, filed just yesterday, contesting your mental state and financial stability at the time of the transfer. Ring a bell." Emma stepped forward. He gave it willingly, signed in front of legal witnesses. "You've got nothing." Mason chuckled. "Think a small-town signature holds up when I bring real lawyers into this?" Walter spoke, calm and cool. That small-town lawyer was legal counsel to the governor for 2 decades. He already sent your papers to the state land board. They laughed, then shredded it. Mason's smug look faltered. You think this ends here? Caleb stepped up. Your mistake, Mason, was assuming I'm still standing alone. He gestured to Emma, Walter, and the certified paperwork. I've got backup, witnesses, affidavits, statements from your own former employees, confirming your lies. Keep digging, and you'll find yourself at the bottom of a hole you made. Mason's face darkened. You always were soft. No, Caleb said quietly. I was just waiting for the right moment. The wind stirred the dust between them. No one moved. Mason stepped back. Enjoy it while you can. This isn't over. Walter rested his rifle in the crook of his arms. Not aimed, but ready. For you it is. Mason hesitated, then turned and left. The truck roared away, leaving a trail of dust. That evening, Caleb sat by the paddock, staring at the land he no longer owned, yet had never felt more connected to. Emma came up beside him and sat in silence. I thought giving it away would feel like losing something, he said. She turned toward him. Maybe that's because it wasn't just property. It was a burden, and you gave it to someone who wants to carry it, not for gain, but for purpose. He looked at her and gently reached for her hand. Thanks for believing in me, even when I couldn't. She squeezed his fingers softly. You were never really alone. You just hadn't found the right people yet. And as the last light dipped beyond the hills, Caleb finally understood something Mason never would. The greatest inheritance isn't what you hold. It's who stands beside you when everything else is gone. A year passed. The Carpenter Ranch, once a modest 80-acre stretch of worn fences and fading memories, now spanned over 2,000 acres of thriving fields and open sky. But more than the land, it was the meaning that changed, and that made all the difference. They named it the New Whitaker Ranch, a tribute to Caleb's grandfather's original homestead. A name once buried in court battles and betrayal, now revived with purpose. At its center stood an old barn, restored with fresh timber and a warm red coat of paint. Above its wide double doors hung a wooden sign that read, Where the broken come to run free. It was no longer just a ranch. It had become a sanctuary. Retired horses that no one wanted anymore now roamed freely. Veterans carrying unseen scars found peace here, drawn by whispered stories and the stillness of the open land. Teenagers from troubled homes were sent for rehabilitation, and left calling it the only place they ever felt seen. Emma, now more poised and powerful than ever, ran the place with steady hands and a fearless heart. Her laughter rang across the fields, when riding with kids, giving lessons, or guiding a mare through labor under the stars. Caleb, now clean-shaven and walking strong, repaired everything from fences to fractured spirits. He wasn't one for big speeches, but when a runaway teen asked if he could call him Uncle Caleb, he just nodded and rested a hand on the boy's shoulder. As for Walter, to everyone's surprise, he stayed. He built a porch swing, took up carving, and started a quiet project that no one knew about until he called him out to see it. One golden evening, as the sky burned with light, he led Emma and Caleb to corral. There, between 2 fence posts, hung a wooden sign, Whitaker Carpenter Ranch, where we begin again. Emma ran her fingers across the letters, her voice catching. You made this? Walter shrugged. Felt right. This place gave all of us a fresh start. Figured it should say so. Caleb looked at him. You sure about putting your name on it? Walter grinned. Kid, I nearly shot someone for you. That makes you family. They laughed. But it wasn't just laughter. It was something deeper. It was healing. A month later, on a bright spring afternoon, Caleb asked Emma to ride with him up to the highest point of the land, the northern ridge. Beneath a lone pine tree that had weathered decades, he stepped down and pulled a small wooden box from his saddlebag. His hands trembled as he opened it. Inside was a silver ring, simple, with tiny words etched within. Home is where you stay. Emma's breath hitched. I'm not a man of fancy words, Caleb said softly, but I have this land. I have a name I cleared, and I have a heart that only found its rhythm when it found you. She brought her hand to her mouth. eyes shining. "I don't need a church or crowd," he added. "Just your hand in mine, for as long as the sun rises over this land." She didn't speak. She just nodded, wrapped her arms around him, and held on under that pine tree while the wind played to the grass that now belonged to them both. Months later, they married behind the barn, the horses watching the fence line like honored guests. Walter walked Emma down the aisle, limping a little and hiding a tear he wouldn't admit was there. No tuxedos, no grand hall, just wildflowers, a cedar arch Caleb built himself, and a gathering of people who had once been lost and were now found. When Caleb spoke his vows, Dusty barked just once, as though giving his blessing. Emma laughed through her tears, and when they kissed, even the wind seemed to hold its breath, as if learning, too, how to be still. That night, under a sky full of stars, Emma and Caleb sat curled up on the porch swing Walter built, a blanket wrapped around them. Time stretched out slow. "No more running," she whispered. "No more hiding," Caleb said. She rested her head on his shoulder. Inside, Walter played chess with one of the teens now calling the ranch home. Horses stirred in the pastures. A soft tune played from the porch radio. "Do you think your grandfather would be proud?" Emma asked. Caleb smiled. "I think he would have liked you more than me." She laughed. "Smart man." They sat in silence, not the heavy kind, but the gentle kind, like a hammock swinging in a breeze. And there, on land that had known sorrow and survival, they lived, not perfectly, not without trials, but fully, with each other, for something bigger than themselves. Because the best stories aren't always the ones filled with riches or war. Sometimes they're quiet, born in barns, ridden on horseback, carried in hearts that ask for nothing, except a chance to start again. One act of kindness, one choice to trust. That's all it takes to turn a stranger into family, and a broken man into someone whole again. Caleb didn't just find shelter on that stormy night. He found a home. And Emma, she didn't just give him a place to stay. She gave him a reason to stay. In a world that rushes, divides, and forgets, stories like this remind us hope still lingers, kindness still counts, and love can grow anywhere. If the story touched your heart, made you smile, or maybe even brought a tear, stay with us. Subscribe to Echoes of Resilience, where every tale reminds you you're not alone, not forgotten, and never too far gone to find your way home.